students, and welcome to this session. As told you before, we are going to start with the poem The Spider and the Fly, which is composed by Mary Botham Howitt. Now, how we are going to proceed with the poem? So let us first see the plan. So first we'll be discussing about the poet, then we'll go on to a short introduction to the poem, then we'll have the stanza-wise explanation of the poem, and then critical analysis of the poem, and finally I'll be giving you a note on the poem. So first let us discuss about the poet Mary Howitt, and you can see the image of Mary Howitt on this particular page. Now, Mary Botham Howitt was an English poet and author of the famous poem The Spider and the Fly. She was born at Colford in Gloucestershire, England, on March 12, 1799. She had 3 siblings, and her father, Samuel Botham, looked after some mining property. She was educated at home, and she used to read a lot and began to write at a very early age. In 1821, she married William Howitt, and the literary instincts of Mary and William were sharpened by their constant companionship, and together they wrote over 180 books. Some of the independent works of Mary Botham are Sketches of Natural History, Birds and Flowers and Other Country Things, Strive and Thrive, Love and Money, and The Children's Year. These are some of the works of Mary Howitt. Now let us discuss about the poem. Now, the poem titled as The Spider and the Fly. The question arises that do we ever listen to our spider sense? Now, what is this spider sense? This is that tingling instinct warning us when something does not seem to be right. It's in fact a feeling that cannot be easily explained, but it is worth regarding, especially in a world where not everything looks as it seems. More often than not, ignoring those stay safe instincts and good common sense does not end well. So sometimes when we find that something is not quite right, there are certain instincts that warn us, that alarm us to stay safe, and if we ignore those stay safe instincts, then it does not end well. Now, this when we are talking this, obviously this is a dark topic to talk on. Now, since this is a dark topic, it does not necessarily mean that our approach to the topic has to be dark too. In fact, there is a lot of interesting work in the form of satires, black comedies, observational comedies, and other genres that allow us to look at serious things in life through not so serious eyes. So try to take note. We look at serious things through not so serious eyes. Now, humor, when used like this, is like bitter medicine taken with the sugar, and such type of humor helps things go down easier, helps the readers to understand those serious issues in an easy way. And The Spider and the Fly, this poem at hand, is a funny little serious piece in this vein. The poem takes us through a spider's ultimately successful attempts in enticing a fly into its web. Now, if only that fly would have kept listening to her spider sense. Now, written by Mary Howitt in the 19th century, The Spider and the Fly is a cautionary fable that falls in this dark humor category. As most fables go, it anthropomorphizes characters to convey moral lessons. Now, anthropomorphism means to endow a non-human character with human traits and behaviors. For example, throughout the poem, we see the spider's web described with features as in a normal human house. We see that there is a pantry, bed, mirror, stairs, and so on. These human touches also serve as metaphors, giving the poem an absurd relatability that makes its moral lesson even more memorable. So things will become gradually clear to us when we discuss in detail the different stanzas of the poem. Now let us go on to the stanza-wise explanation of the poem. Here is the stanza 1. Will you walk into my parlor? Said the spider to the fly. A parlor, we know, is a room in a house or apartment that is used for conversation or for spending time with guests. And here the word parlor refers to the spider's web. It is the prettiest little parlor that ever you may spy. Spy means to notice secretly. The way into my parlor is up a winding stair, and I have many curious things to show when you are there. Curious things. Now, through this phrase, the spider makes a sly reference to those insects that the spider captured earlier. Oh, no, 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 said the little fly. To ask me is in vain. It is worthless. It will have no success. For who goes up your winding stair can never come down again. The fly is aware that whoever goes up the winding stair never comes down again. Now let us try to understand this particular stanza. Now the syntax of this particular poem is quite significant, or it is quite straightforward. Now the syntax is straightforward because the poet's intention in writing this piece is that this particular piece or poem is meant to be read to or read by children, small children. Also, the majority of the lines are made up of dialogues, and the two speakers here are a spider whose ultimate goal is to attract a fly to its parlor, and the second speaker is the fly who does her best to resist the temptation of the spider. In the first line, the spider begins by asking the fly very nicely, very politely, if she will come to the parlor. And thus the poem begins with the spider's pursuit of the fly, with a charming invitation into his home. Yet this sociable chat is edged with a sense of mistrust, a sense of danger that comes with these two characters, that is the spider and the fly, being natural predator and prey. Now here we must pay close attention to the spider's words. The spider describes his parlor as the prettiest little parlor that ever you did spy. Now the act of spying is to watch something secretly. We share our secrets and confidences with our close ones. Inviting the fly to spy into his abode, the spider is trying to send the message that he considers the fly to be very close to himself. And see how the spider portrays his home as a mysterious, wonderful place. More details are added to the description of the house in order to arouse the fly's curiosity. The parlor may be reached through a winding stair, and it is filled with many pretty things. He adds on the enticing detail that it is the prettiest little parlor. The spider is trying to play down the fear the fly should feel about his abode. It is little and pretty, not at all foreboding. From the first line, it is easy to tell that the spider has ulterior motives. A reader will be very aware that nothing good will happen to the fly if she agrees to go to the parlor of the spider, if she accepts the invitation of the spider. In order to reach the spider's home, one must go up a winding stair. Once there, the fly would find curious things to be seen. Now these two lines makes the spider's home seem somewhat magical and much more tempting. But let us see how the fly replies. The fly says, "Oh, no, no," said the little fly, "to ask me is in vain. For who goes up your binding stair can never come down again." Thankfully, the fly wisely sees through the spider's deviousness, cunningness. She knows that those who go through the winding stair into the spider's home, they never come out. It implies that she is aware that the spider has eaten his previous guests. This is one extended invitation she should not be accepting. And so the fly clearly declines, telling the spider that to ask her into his home is in vain, useless, or worthless. Now let us move on to stanza 2. In stanza 2, the spider does not give up and tries again in his cunning plan. He says, "I am sure you must be weary, dear, with soaring up so high. Well, you rest upon my little bed," said the spider to the fly. "There are pretty curtains drawn around. The sheets are fine and thin." Now, what are the pretty curtains? These pretty curtains refer to the spider's web made using his silk, and hence the web sheets are fine, thin, and pretty. And then he says, "And if you like to rest a while, I will snugly tuck you in." Snugly means tightly, and tuck you in means to push you in. And here, snugly tuck you in, it through this phrase, the spider means to say to eat with pleasure. Okay, but he's playing with the words. So actually the meaning is to eat with pleasure, but here the spider is trying to impress upon the fly that he will tightly push the fly in and try to give the fly the warmth. "Oh, no, no," said the little fly, "for I have often heard it said, they never, never wake again who sleep upon your bed." Now let us try to understand this stanza. The spider has been keeping, now it is very clear that the spider has been keeping a very close eye on the fly. And this time, the spider tries a different tactic, because here the spider feigns concern. He poses as a sympathizer and pretends to fret over how tired the fly must be. And therefore he says, "I am sure you must be very weary, dear," after what he feels a day of intense flying. He goes so far as to personally offer the fly a respite from the day's activities. And the cunning villain also adds a subtle dose of flattery, that is, soaring up so high, to describe the flight of the fly. Now he hopes that the fly will lower her guard if she feels that she has a kindly shoulder to lean on. And how temptingly you'll find that the spider offers his prospect of a little rest like offering water to a thirsty traveler. A cozy little bed with the light sheets to rest on. A quiet place with pretty curtains drawn around to make it cool and dark. To an exhausted person, this would be a bliss. The perfect atmosphere to snugly tuck in. This means to ensure a comfortable snooze by securing the bed sheets closely around oneself. Interestingly, the fine and thin sheets bring to mind the fine silk of a cobweb. If the spider tucks the fly into this bed, she could find herself in permanent slumber. But still, the fly declines the invitation of the spider. The fly says, "Oh, no, no," said the little fly, "for I have often heard it said, they never, never wake again who sleep upon your bed." Now, then again, perhaps the spider tried too hard when he proposed to personally tuck the fly in. Now, weary or not, the fly is still alert to the perils of falling for the spider's flattery. She turns him down on his own offer, remarking that everyone knows of the spider's ill repute as a host. Everyone is aware of the spider's ill reputation as a host, as she has heard that whoever goes to the spider's home for sleepover never wakes up again. Her refusal is not just based on her own observations now. This time, she is even more firm in her refusal. In addition to her "oh, no, no," you should note the repetition of "never" for the sake of emphasis. The fly says, "they never, never wake again who sleeps upon your bed." So her refusal is even more strong in the second stanza. Now let us move to stanza 3. Said the cunning spider to the fly, "Dear friend, what can I do to prove the warm affection I have always felt for you? I have within my pantry good store of all that is nice. I am sure you are very welcome. Will you please to take a slice?" "Oh, no, no," said the little fly. "Kind sir, that cannot be. I have heard what is in your pantry, and I do not wish to see." Pantry, a small room in a house where food is stored. Now, in spite of having failed in his second attempt, the spider does not give up. He perseveres and tries to manipulate the fly into feeling guilty for not accepting his many gestures of friendship. "Dear friend, what shall I do? Here is the catch though. The spider is eager to prove his friendship, but he is still on his own terms. At the end of the day, he is using guilt as another roundabout way to get the fly into his home. He says, I have within my pantry good store of all that is nice. Now, these constant invitations to see something or another in his house is almost a pitiful refrain. He is desperate and at his wits' end on how to gain the trust of the fly. But still, the fly refuses. But take note of the words of the fly. He says, oh, no, no, kind sir, that cannot be. I have heard what is in your pantry, and I do not wish to see. Now it is commendable the way the fly fights politeness with politeness. She addresses the spider as kind sir, which is a dainty reply to the spider's dear friend. It shows that while the fly shows courtesy to the spider, she is not keen on him as a friend and will still keep her distance. The fly then proceeds to firmly turn down his invitation and tactfully alludes that she already knows what is in the spider's pantry, that is, his past victims, and she is not interested in knowing more. So, hence, once again, the fly declines the invitation of the spider. We do till here today. In the next class, we'll continue from stanza 4. So, thank you for watching and have a good day.